Hi guys, welcome to Scofield Farm. I'm Carice, and today as I start my sunflowers inside, and I'll explain to you in a minute why I do that, I'm going to talk about physical limitations and discouragement when it comes to gardening or homesteading, or really you could apply this to any area of life. This is just the area of life that I have recently felt this, and I want to share with you kind of my process and also start my sunflowers because it's one of my very favorite things to have in the garden. Let's get started. I've got a little bit of bark in this because I'm not using seed starter this time. That's not how I usually start seeds. I'm actually using a good potting soil, but that's because these sunflowers are going to go straight outside. I'm going to actually have them grow outside, and then I'm going to transplant them straight into the garden from these little cell trays. Why would I start them inside? We have a ton of bird pressure. It's a blessing in some ways because they come in, they eat aphids, eat bugs, but they also ate all of my peas, and then they eat sunflowers that I try to direct sow. They eat a lot of stuff. So this is a way that I can kind of more assure that I'm gonna get some sunflowers in my garden. And if you've been with me any amount of time, you know that I absolutely love sunflowers. I love sunflowers. I sometimes think that I probably don't love sunflowers so much, but then reality hits and I find out that I still love sunflowers just as much as I did probably when I was in 8th grade and I carried a couple sunflowers with me on my 8th grade graduation. So I do love sunflowers. Okay, so I had a better video last year, I think. I'll try to remember to link to that, where I talked about the different sunflowers I was doing and I was more organized than I am right now. This year, some of the sunflowers I'm doing are called Very Cool Fuzzy One. Very Cool Fuzzy One. So that's how I labeled a couple of mine. But because I, both buy seeds, I get seeds from other people, and then I save my own seeds, I might have really liked that Very Cool Fuzzy One, and so I am going to grow it again. So as we do sunflowers, you can see I'm kind of using my shoulder. I had shoulder surgery at the end of January, and it has definitely affected my gardening this year. It's actually been quite a thing for me, quite a thing, more than I thought it would be. I really kind of thought, yeah, I'll probably, have the sling on maybe for 4 to 6 weeks, and then I'll be back out there. I'll be digging stuff up, planting stuff, and here it is 3 months later, and I just drove yesterday for the second time. The first time was a couple days before that, but it was across town. Or I guess we don't actually live in town, we live outside of a city, so it was driving into town. That's not very much for somebody who drives my boys to comp soccer games 2 to 3 hours away, sometimes 4.5 hours away in the Bay Area. We are in Northern California, Zone 9B, we garden year round. I always like to say that because I think it's kind of cool that we can grow food and flowers and herbs and all sorts of stuff every month of the year. It's pretty fun. But anyway, I drive a lot. But lately I've driven not at all. So kind of the same thing goes for my gardening. I have had to lean so heavily on my family. I decided this year to direct sow a lot of things like cucumbers, squashes, pumpkins, what else? Melons. I'm not doing watermelons. I have a whole video about why I'm not doing watermelons, but we do really go to cantaloupe. So we're gonna direct sow cantaloupe. I don't know how those will do because we get a lot of pill bug pressure, and in my experience, the pill bugs actually eat small seedlings. Now I have done beer traps. That's been one of the best methods for us to get the pill bug population under control. I'm not somebody who wants to spray and get rid of every pest. Actually, pill bugs are decomposers, so they will work to break down organic matter in the garden, but when they're overpopulated, they will eat plants, small plants like seedlings. So I don't mind there being pill bugs in my garden. I don't mind there being grubs in my garden, even slugs. Honestly, it's everything in moderation. We want to have a healthy ecosystem, and ecosystems have all sorts of things. They even have aphids and that kind of stuff, but when you have an overpopulation, you either want to do something to bring it into balance or attract the beneficial insects that they will keep it in balance. All of that rambling to say, I really don't know how my direct sowed cucumbers and and squashes and melons are going to do. I do not dare direct sow sunflowers. If I have volunteer sunflowers, they do wonderful. But if I plant sunflowers in the ground or in a garden bed, they die 100% of the time. They will be there one day so beautiful, and the next day they will be eaten down to the ground as if they never existed. So what I do is I like to start inside. I know sunflowers, they have a taproot. It doesn't like to be disturbed. That's why I'm going to plant them pretty young to give them time to really get established. And we keep bees, and I love having sunflowers. The bees are on them getting pollen all summer long, even into the fall. If I just continually deadhead, I actually get more and more sunflowers as time goes. I really like that. Oh, I don't think that I wrote down enough. Well, that just means I'll do 2 of one of my favorites right here, 2 rows. So all of this to say, I'm going to tell you what sunflowers I'm doing, and we're going to chat a little bit about dealing with discouragement and physical limitations in gardening. So when I talk about, physical limitations, I was in a car accident almost 2 years ago, and it messed up my shoulder. And I basically have had some physical limitations since then, not just since my surgery in January. Surgery in January really is only like the climax of these physical limitations. So I have a lot of hope that things are going to get better and are going to improve at some point, even though it's been really, really rough, leading up to that. I want to let you know, okay, I just planted Tayo sunflower seeds from Seeds and Such. New to me, it was like a free seed sample they sent. So we'll see how those do. I'm actually going to make sure and pay attention to where I plant them this year in the garden. So if I like them, I know which ones they were, and I can save seeds from them. Okay, next one I'm gonna plant is Mongolian, giant Mongolian. It's beautiful, it's super giant, super cool. Grew it last year, I think for the first time. They're really, really big, and they're big seeds, and they're great if you harvest them to eat. Guys, I harvest sunflowers to eat sometimes, but as I said, I mostly think I grow them for my bees. So it's hit or miss if we actually roast them. We do, but I like to feed them to my chickens. They're a great protein source, and I really like to have my bees on them. Okay, going back. So we're doing Mongolian giant. I'm gonna keep talking to you. Okay, so it's been a while. It's been a while that my shoulder has had to be taped to be able to be functional. Or then, I had surgery. I was in a really giant brace. Then I hurt my back really, really bad, severe back spasms. That was a couple weeks ago. I actually had to even get a walker to walk with, which I'm only in my 40s, guys. So that was super daunting to me mentally. I had hurt my back in 2019. I actually ruptured a lower disc. And so the feeling of the pain in my back, it wasn't the same, but it was similar enough of being debilitating that it actually brought, I don't know what to say, almost like I went to a really dark place. I got really, really overwhelmed thinking, is this going to set me so far back in my shoulder healing? I have been on a journey for 2 years to try to heal this shoulder, including surgery, which I really didn't want to do. But it became clear that that was the best option for actual long-term health of my shoulder. And I got really, really discouraged, might even say depressed. And I think part of it, guys, was thinking about how things like this happen and we can actually go back to a place of trauma that maybe we didn't fully deal with before. And we can also project that traumatic event in the past forward and think that there doesn't feel like that there's actually hope of recovery. There's hope of actually having our body feel well and be able to do the things that we want to do. And in some ways, I one day, a couple weeks ago, in the middle of the intense back and being really afraid, honestly, that I was going to hurt my shoulder that is not completely healed yet, and trying to figure out how to stabilize with my back, I thought, I'm just not going to have a garden this summer. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I can't have one more thing come against me. And that was a real hard moment. I don't know. I mean, if you're a gardener, you know what I'm talking about. Some some people might not relate. Some people might think like, you know, big deal, skip this year gardening. But I find so much joy in my garden. I like to go out there and to see what's currently blooming. I mean, even if something bolts, I like to see the flowers and see the bees or butterflies, moths, different pollinators that will be visiting it. And I love to have my chickens come to the fences and they make their little clucking sounds asking for chard. I like to feed them chard through the garden fence. And it's fun to harvest things. It's fun to plant things. I really, really like planting things. Believe it or not, I think I might like planting things even more than harvesting. Because harvesting, you do all this work and you come in and then you have to like figure out how to process it, store it, cook it. The fun doesn't end in the garden where you just like pick it. You have to actually do something with it. So yeah, I love to plant things. And so much of the season in the spring is like the excitement of planting things, and then I haven't got to fully participate as I would have liked to. So it felt like maybe I should just quit. And if you've had physical limitations, if you've had injuries, if you've had traumatic events happen, sometimes it really feels like quitting is the best answer. And it doesn't mean it is. Real fast, I just did Titan Sunflower. I love this one. It's really tall and beautiful, and I collected seeds from it. It has really cute fat seeds, and this one will probably always be in my garden. Okay, so back to discouragement. Do you understand what I'm talking about? I think that if you've gone through anything hard, you probably do. And, you know, it could be something physical. It could be like grief and a death in the family, because I know that grief when my dad died 11 years ago really paralyzed me in moving forward in life a similar way as some of these multiple injuries I've had has done. It's not the same, but there's been something enough similar that it's interesting to figure out how to push past something and both accept what is completely out of our control and to be able to have like the vision to see what's in our control. And I talked about it a couple of videos ago when I went on a walk. I talked about serenity prayer, and the serenity prayer of like, help me accept the things I can't change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference between them. And sometimes that gets really hazy. So I feel way better. It's been, oh goodness, it was the day before Easter I injured my back. So we are, I don't know if 3 weeks past it or 2 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks. And I'm doing a lot better. But, you know, my back still hurts, but I can actually do stuff. I'm really thankful. I'm really glad I didn't completely quit. I don't know how this stuff will do. I usually start these a little earlier. I don't know how my direct sewed stuff is gonna do, but it's still worth it to try. It's still worth it to go through the process. It's worth it to go through the process. And I want to encourage you, whether it's mental health, physical health, whether it's grief, like deep emotional pain, that even though it feels really strong sometimes to quit, to want to just stop trying so hard and have things keep going wrong, I want to encourage you that it's going to get better. Like, things aren't going to stay exactly the same. Are we going to have other hard things happen? Absolutely, absolutely. But life is not static, and it's not static horrible. It's not static wonderful. Life ebbs and flows and goes up and down. And I just want to encourage anybody who is having just, whether it's in gardening and homesteading, or whether it's like in the bigger parts of life, the temptation and the pain of thinking that somehow quitting would be better. It's not. It's not. Keep going forward. I heard an old preacher once say that if you're walking through hell, don't set up camp, keep walking. And I think that that kind of applies to my season in this year, 2024, is keep walking, keep going forward. Like, things are not easy. There's a lot not easy right now, but it's worth it to keep taking the next step. And I want to encourage you, whatever you're facing in life right now, take the next step, and don't quit, don't give up. There is something beautiful in each day. If we have eyes to see it, there is beauty. God has given us so many gifts, beautiful small gifts, like my lilacs blooming, like the little chirping of my chicks behind me. There's beauty in every day if we can see it. But sometimes we get such a heavy cloud over us we can't see the beauty that God's put right before us, and gifts. There can be beautiful gifts right in the middle of seasons of hard. I just planted what I called the fat sunflowers. We'll see what that actually means. Next, it's the very short, kind of fuzzy. I kind of think that those might be the dwarf sungold, but they don't look like the same seeds, so I'm gonna plant both of these. All right, so yeah, I hope that was encouraging to somebody. You know, part of why I like to garden is because it really helps my mental health. It helps me when I feel very, very down, very overwhelmed with life, when I'm feeling anxiety, and I can go out and I can just hear nature. I can hear birds, I can hear chickens crowing, I can look at pretty plants and hear the buzzing of bees, and I can smell the flowers, and all of these senses are filled in such a positive way that gardening has been a very therapeutic thing for me over the years, and one that has been so much more valuable than just the food or the flowers that we get, the herbs that we get, the teas that I grow. It's so much more than the harvest. And I think gardening is so worth it. I made a whole video back in the fall about why you should garden. And I really still believe that the mental health, the emotional well-being that it provides makes all of the harvests just a bonus. These are such tiny seeds. They're so cute. That's why I don't think that they're the same sunflower as that other short fuzzy one, because those were bigger. Now, one of my favorite sunflowers is called Velvet Queen. It's got like this orangey red color, very autumn looking, and it has multi-heads, and it's just beautiful. It's honestly, it makes me happy to look at it. I love it. I mean, I like yellow sunflowers too, but the extra pop of color is always such a joy to me. You know, this is last year, my Nana passed away the week of my birthday, first week of May, and she was 97. And I used to love to make her bouquets from my garden. I would gather sunflowers and zinnias and cosmos and whatever happened to be blooming. I'd make her a fresh bouquet and take it to her senior assisted living home. And it's gonna be very different this year to not be able to share my garden with her, my flowers with her. And I'm just, you know, I'm thinking about that. And I think part of what I'm dealing with beyond the physical stuff is there's real grief that I still have that I haven't fully been able to process. And, you know, I have good memories of gardening times and sharing stuff with people like my Nana, but it also can bring up pain, and that's okay. We can take the opportunity that it might bring to process another layer of pain and to be able to get more healing. The last sunflower I'm doing is called Yellow Multi-Head. Do I know what its real name was? No, but this is a really pretty sunflower that had a lot of heads, and if I would cut, it would basically come again. So we had bees buzzing around it the whole season, the whole summer, fall. It was such a good one. I do want to have it all the time. Now guys, when I save seeds, look at all these seeds. I'm gonna sow 6 of them. It's kind of funny that I don't really need this many of every sunflower seed, but it's so nice in seed saving that you really do get a very, very abundant source of seeds to sow the next year. Just going to spray these in with water. I actually, to get the soil moist, because it wasn't, I bottom watered them so it'd be soaking up the whole time. I'm going to spray it in, and then these are going to go right outside next to all of my garden starts that I'm waiting to plant out. Somewhat impatiently waiting to plant out. I will show you an update as they are growing, how they're doing. I really hope that just sharing a little bit of my story and my heart with dealing with discouragement and physical issues maybe help you in whatever you're facing to know to keep going, not give up, and there is beauty to see. God always places beauty for us. He's always there for us. And that doesn't mean we're not going to go through hard things, but we don't have to go through things alone. We have community, and we actually can reach out to God when we're struggling. And also, he places beauty in our life and gifts if we can have eyes to see it. Not everything is dark. There can be a lot of darkness sometimes, but there also is light. And I hope that you can be encouraged to reach out for the light and turn your heart to God if you're feeling alone. And you can always reach out to me, and I can pray for you as well. I hope you're doing well, and I will talk to you soon, and I can't wait to share with you these sunflowers when they're growing strong in the garden. I'll see you soon.